This is what you should say. So welcome into the first official episode of the Senior Roundtable Football Podcast.
Well, thank you. You just introduced us. I started recording.
Perfect.
That was
Perfect. There we go.
perfect. I loved it. All right. Welcome,
There we go.
everyone, or no one, because this is the first episode.
To the millions of people listening across the country and around the world. I guess we'll start with Detroit and Kansas City, obviously. Thursday night football opened up the season.
I think we should start with introducing ourselves.
Oh, I mean, okay. You introduce yourself.
My name is Matt. I am I have to pause because I'm wearing a Dolphins jersey, but I'm a Jets fan. Down in Orlando, and
divisional rivals wearing his
what can I
Miami
say?
jersey.
Big win yesterday. It was a lot of fun to watch. That's why we got to support the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins.
Oh man,
Ridiculous.
Here.
I'll introduce myself here. My name is Charlie. I am 23 years old. I am an actual diehard Jets fan. I've been a fan since I was 9 years old. And I'm just ready to embrace the suck. Let's go Jets.
My name is Thev. I am a diehard Panthers fan, and I'm an OKC fan with basketball. So I'm in purgatory right now. But yeah, so I already know how it feels for all those teams that went through rebuilds, all those teams. I know how it feels, man.
And I'm Zack. I'm a Jets fan as well. I'm also a Mets fan if we ever happen to talk about baseball on this podcast. But yeah, I've been a Jets fan since the Sanchez administration, and now we're here looking at Aaron Rodgers. So things are looking up for us.
Came a long way.
And if you want to see Zach's face, give us 50 subscribers. That's the number. It's exclusive content.
You can see my face at 50 subscribers and my feet at 100.
So get us up, people. I think he's underselling the feet ones.
That might be the wrong group, but
yeah.
Oh,
hey,
right.
I'm
We're
not going to shame anybody. It's just not my personal thing.
Yeah, exactly.
No discrimination.
We are a football podcast. So, I mean, feet should be involved. Regardless, let's circle back to this Detroit and Kansas City game.
Now we can get there.
What did you guys see from Patrick Mahomes on Thursday?
What didn't we see from Patrick Mahomes? That's the bigger question. He was giving it his all out there. You saw him dealing with the pass rush and getting the balls off in classic Mahomes fashion. The receivers just weren't there for him. That's my Skip impression. But yeah, no, I have a few stats to go over from that. Fucking on my handy dandy whiteboard. 8 drops, 5 of 14, third down conversions. I know that one's not only a wide receiver stat, but that's kind of still fucked up. And 10 of 22 passes to the receivers completion. So under 50% completion rate to these wide receivers. So where were these people? Sky Moore, nothing. Kadarius Toney, one of the worst performances we've ever seen. We've seen no wide receivers score lower in PFF than Kadarius Toney. So where were these guys? Rashee Rice was the biggest standout as a wide receiver.
Rashee Rice, the rookie, shocking.
Yeah, shout out to Rashee Rice.
So the thing about that is, this is the one thing that we always do as like fans. We don't appreciate greatness when they're in their greatness. Right now, Pat Mahomes just certified on Thursday Night Football I'm the best quarterback in football right now. There's no other quarterback that went out there without their head down with that JV team on offense. Let's be for real. That offense is one of the worst offenses we'll probably see all season. They're going to revamp that offense by the end of next year. We might not see that offense ever again together. So that offense right there, that was my key thing. That Pat Mahomes is the best QB in football. There's no other way to put it. Pat Mahomes, if we plugged in Josh Allen in that play, those plays that Pat Mahomes found a way to make, they weren't happening. That interception that he had, if there was a way to give Kadarius Toney interception, we would have gave it to him, because that was insane. The ball was in his hands. I hate when regular people be like, "Oh, I could catch the ball if they do it." No, that was a plug and play. Any other receiver in the league, you plug there, that's easy. 7 yards, whatever catch that is, plus another 8, because that's how open he was. That I was flabbergasted watching that game. That Andy Reid put out a football team like that. I've never seen that before, honestly.
Yeah. You got to give a lot of props to the Detroit defense, though. That defense came in locked down.
Those rookies were showing out. Jack Campbell was present, despite I don't think he got the start, and Brian Branch can speak for himself with a 50-yard interception return touchdown.
He was the first ever rookie for the Detroit Lions since 1967 to get a pick 6 in their debut game. Since 1967.
Lions have had a lot of top picks since then, too.
Oh, yeah.
The starting to pay off, though, now. It's starting to pay off. I mean, the Lions, in my opinion, forget the Cowboys. I think they're going to be America's team this year. I think everyone's rooting for them. They're rooting for Dan Campbell. They're rooting for
City
Hutchinson.
Dan Campbell. That's a hard story not to root for.
I think we're rooting for Goff.
Ooh, Carl, that's another one. I think
it would be cool.
They're Jameson Williams away. They're Jameson Williams away from being a surefire playoff team. The team that we watch without their star receiver, arguably, we could all say Jameson Williams is one of their best.
But would you bet on that
core right now? Honestly, that was my main takeaway, that they're J-Mo Williams away from being a contending team, like an NFC North healthy team. Because we got to remember those powerhouses, besides the Eagles and 49ers, we don't really see those powerhouses make it through to the end of the year. Those powerhouse teams usually die down. They're hamstring and ACL away from not being too well. Like you guys were saying, that team, like we said it before, the team had a lot of draft picks. They built through the draft with the very capital they had with free agency. They went and got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which was a huge hole for them. They needed that safety help with Brian Branch coming in. They don't have to put a rookie playing multiple positions. They could just have him focusing at once. This defense, like you guys said, that linebacker core might be one of the best in football right now, and they're one of the youngest besides the 49ers. But as we're seeing, the 49ers just paid, how much did they pay Bosa? They paid Bosa
$122 million guaranteed.
The 120, that's NBA numbers. Let's be for real. We're seeing numbers like that in the NBA to role players.
We're going to see it in the NFL too, especially with all these media numbers coming in, all the streaming deals. I feel like we're going to see it's going to be NFL and NBA numbers soon.
That's one thing the NFL will not have are guaranteed contracts. They will not have guaranteed contracts.
I think owners are going to do something to a running back to give him a guaranteed contract to be like, yo, this is why we don't give it. But that's a whole different conversation. But like I said, this team rebuilt itself through the ground. They got some a coach that bought into it, and not only bought into it, he cried when he had to get rid of Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams isn't the best running back, but that just proves to you that he's buying in and has these players buying in. So I love it. When Jamal Williams comes back from that little 6-game or 8-game suspension, whatever it is, I'm saying he's going to have 100 yards off rip, maybe even 2 touchdowns.
Think about how he came into his rookie year. After he came back from his initial injury, he came back and he caught a touchdown on his first catch. It's unreal.
He's going to be hot. He's going to have that season behind him. That BS that we could say, the BS suspension, 6 games. Let's be for real. That should be a 2-game suspension. He got the same amount of games as Alvin Kamara, which is insane. The 6-game suspension, he's going to come off that suspension, be one of the best young receivers. I 100% believe it, and I'm behind it.
Especially when you're accompanying him with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had I think a very productive day with 6 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown. I think their offense
first touchdown of the season, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Drafted him in the 2nd round, baby. Shout out Amon-Ra.
And I just think that's going to be a solid young offense. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're going to have J-Mo Williams. And then when you got David Montgomery and Gibbs, I think that's got potential to be a top 5 running back tandem in the league this year. I think.
Also, don't forget about Sam Laporta as well. Don't forget Sam Laporta.
Behind that,
Sam
Laporta was another.
It's just everything.
That
I
team
don't
is
think we
just
can really like list the weakness. Sure, like they have some roster turnover, especially on the defense, but like if those
you're
players
gonna
that they
see
turned
that
over
young
to
team.
stand out, then we're talking about like a Super Bowl contender very very soon.
I
But
think
Yeah.
that small sample size we saw them knock off teams in the playoffs, that little 3-4 game stint that they had last year at the end of the season, I think that's the Lions. I think the Lions that we saw on Monday night perform and be like, yo, this is the Super Bowl champions. I don't care that they're banged up. I don't care that they don't have Kelsey. This isn't the same team as the last 2 years that terrorized you guys, but we're going to knock them off. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm so happy if you're a Detroit fan, that don't take that as a little pushover. Oh, it's Super Bowl drunk. No, that team knows how to perform at the end of the year, and the fact that you guys knocked them off in probably a crucial win for them, you guys are going to be competitive. So if you're going to be competitive, you got to knock off teams like that. Those are PowerPoints. Huge win for you.
What do you guys
Huge
say
win for
to the
you.
fact that the Kansas City was out two of their biggest stars between Kelsey and Chris Jones? Do you think
I
that
mean,
softens the win? Because I've been seeing some analysts say that this should be looked at as a win with a caveat to it.
it's next man
I don't
up.
think
It's next man up
exactly.
regardless. I mean, to come back to what Tev was saying about Mahomes being the best quarterback in the league. I mean, isn't it the responsibility of the quarterback to make his receivers better, regardless of who's out there catching the ball? I mean, you can't argue he's definitely probably the most talented of our generation right now, but I mean, you gotta be able to put your receivers in the position to make these plays. Obviously, we look at Tony, and I specifically outlined in my notes here, Kadarius Toney is ass. I I don't think there's
Very
any
astute
excuses for
point.
Kadarius. Yeah, for 2 point Tony, I think there's no excuses for him. But at the same time, I think he's got other receivers on his teams. Obviously Kelsey being out hurts him, but you still got guys like Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco coming out of the backfield. He can catch some balls. We've seen him be a dynamic threat, especially in the playoffs. He could do everything. So I'm not sold on Mahomes being this untouchable god in the NFL yet. I'm not. Now that we see him without Tyreek Hill, without guys like Mecole Hardman, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You know who we're going to see with Mecole Hardman, though. We'll get to it, but we're
We'll
excited.
get to that.
So,
I
what
gotta say,
about
you
the
know
No.
what's the
one
thing though?
o'clock
You know what's the
window of
thing though?
games? Oh, I'm sorry, Charlie.
You know, it's the one thing the best player on the Lions. We didn't even talk about him. Aiden Hutchinson destroyed that elite Kansas
Only
City
10
offensive
points in
line.
fantasy, though. We started doing IDPs, and I was expecting a lot more out of Hutchinson, given some of the points that other
Um.
defensive players were getting.
Mahomes is just like the most
Oh
unsackable
yeah.
quarterback in the NFL, but he was getting after him. He was
That
that
line.
Trey
Lived in the
Smith could not
backfield.
hold him to save his life. Not block him at
So
all.
so going up what Goldman said, next man up. I think their line was banged up. I got to be 100% sure. I think their line is banged up. But that whole Chris Jones and Kelsey not playing isn't Mahomes' fault. Injury or not, Chris Jones didn't play because his GM doesn't want to pay him. His GM's watching all these defensive players get these guaranteed contracts. I'm pretty sure he asked for $2 million more. Now he's going to have to pay him about $5 to $6 million more. That Bosa deal fucked up the whole market. I'm a Panthers fan, like I said. Brian Burns' deal went from being a Max Crosby type deal from 26.5 to possibly even getting 29-30 a year, which is going to ruin younger. Like I said,
Right.
Brian
I
Burns.
remember,
He's
like,
younger than Bosa.
being a Jets fan, I was kind of relieved to see like Quinn's cap number fall south of the 30 million number, a little closer to that 25, because of the fact it's like you look at Aaron Donald making over 30. It's like, was it
Yeah.
Bosa's making over 30 now? So isn't
Yeah,
he?
Bosa was at 20. He was at 25 before. Saw that Sydney made 26. Now he's at over 30. So
Right.
all these younger players are seeing that base number be 30, basically. We're going to see a lot of those contracts come out to be 30. So,
Oh yeah.
like I was saying, if they just paid Chris Jones, like, all right, like, yo, kind of like, what's his face deal, Aaron Donald deal, I think that's like a respect deal. Like, yo,
Right.
you're the best to ever touch football. You're going to retire
Yeah.
within the next few years. We saw the same deal from the 49ers to what's his face? To not 49ers. Yeah, the 49ers to Williams. When he was on the Williams, they gave him that kind of, all right, like you're the best in football kind of deal, but he ended up leaving. But I'm telling you, there's a few players that take those deals. Who else was it? Von Miller took that deal a few times. Like a quick $2-3 million deal where they give you, that medium that you want, but it's voidable years. It's not guaranteed money. When you retire, they give you a base money and they give you voidable years. Those contracts, they will come out more. I believe that, like I said, before I forget this, I think they're going to give Jonathan Taylor or a young running back or Isaiah Pacheco a guaranteed deal where it's going to go south and blow up. And then they're going to be like, yo, this is why we don't give guaranteed contracts in football. Offensive sides are going to start going down with guaranteed deals. We're starting to see it with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's guaranteed deal is not looking good. We're seeing more of those guaranteed deals tank. We could argue that guaranteed deal by Bosa for him to play, 13 games, 10 games, 9 games a year now? He's hurt a lot. Last year was probably his first completed year, and this is why he's able to say, yo, I want 31 or I want 32. I think these contracts are going to blow up in fans' faces. And I'm more than happy for them to get money, but it's going to blow up in fans' faces. It's going to blow up in organizations' faces, and we're going to watch it with the 49ers first. Because those contracts that they're giving up is Madden, like, yo, me and my friends are in a Madden league. I can't lose Bosa. I don't want him to get Bosa. Yeah, let me give him 30.
Especially with Javon Hargrave now. They just poached him from Philly over this past offseason. So let's get into that. The 1 o'clock slate of games, I feel like, was highlighted from the fact that, like, the Niners were on it and the Steelers were not. We saw a 20-0 lead start early in the second quarter, and they did not let the foot off the gas. We saw Christian McCaffrey get active, over 150 rushing yards. We saw the defense get after Kenny Pickett, making him look yet again like a rookie despite heading into the second year with high expectations. I think there's a lot to pull from that game.
I mean, the highlights obviously got to be TJ Watt. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 fumble recovery, and 5 QB hits.
Over 40 fantasy points in our, once again, we'll get to it. We'll explain the league a little later too, but our fantasy league was dominated by TJ Watt this weekend.
Are we already looking at the favorite for DPOI here again? I mean, is it over? Is the
also got 3 sacks. I'm just putting that out there. Brian
Burns had 1.5 a half, 3 tackles for a loss. I mean, these DMs are getting crazy. Like I said, that Bosa deal's killing the defensive side of the ball. I think we've seen 2 to 3 different DMs. Yeah, we saw 2 to 3 different DMs, D tackles this week at multiple sacks. Frankie Louisville was another silent killer. 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss as well. A few QB pressures. We saw a lot of DNs go crazy. Who was the other D tackle that played very well for the Steelers? That was like kind of just a little bright spot that they had. Cam Hayward had a game. I mean, a lot of their players are head down. You're going to see that a lot with the Steelers this year, I think. Kenny Pickett's only going to take them so far. I believe that he was just a reach. He was we got to take someone. We took a young receiver. We're going to have to take a young receiver. Hometown hero. It was kind of written in the board for them to take him, so they took him. He's from Jersey. We can't talk about him, man. We love him. We got to love him. But at the same time, I think he reached his max potential.
The thing is, the one thing I disagree with you, though, one thing I do disagree with you is I don't blame it on Kenny Pickett. I blame it on Matt Canada's offense. Because you saw last year how they couldn't even drive the ball down the field sometimes.
There are some talented players so many on that offense, so it does kind of baffle my mind to still see it not work out. Like, granted, we should give them, I think, a little bit of a mulligan because the 49ers defense was ready to play. Like, Nick Bosa did not come with a beer belly. I forgot who joked with, like, in the 49ers organization where it's like he's playing as long as he doesn't have a beer belly or whatever it is. And he was a part of a ferocious defense. It's unreal. So I think that's
by far
definitely
one of the best defenses.
Definitely one of like the most, I think, apparent like dominating games of week 1. I think right there up there, the Ravens taking on the Texans, maybe a little more expected. The Texans are just not able to welcome CJ Stroud into the NFL maybe as cleanly as they hoped.
I think they should have sat him. I think they did him a disservice starting him week 1. As much as they want to get him ready, I think they should have. That's an awful disservice. A disservice what they did to him. Even with that opening drive, we joked around about it. I'm pretty sure Charlie said that the Texans are just the Texans. That it was atrocious. It really was bad. Even tuning in, it was like, oh my God. Like, if I'm a fan, I'm feeling bad for them too, because you're going to be tuning in this every week. That team, it feels like that team kind of was like paced together. We got a rookie quarterback. I don't think they even expected to grab a rookie quarterback. I think they really wanted to go double defense, but the way that quarterbacks went, as soon as Bryce went, CJ went, it was just quarterback. It was one of those weird carousels where we saw multiple quarterbacks go. We saw multiple tight ends go in a row. We saw multiple guards go in a row in that draft. It was just one of those times in the draft where players just went out the window. But I feel like they got caught in a weird situation. Took Stroud. I believe they should have took a Hooker or a
Took a what?
or a Richardson to Hayden Hooker. Last year he came out? Hayden Hooker?
Yeah,
they should have took Hayden Hooker. They should have took Hayden Hooker and did the project like they should have done, but no. They went and took CJ Stroud, which isn't a bad pick, sit him. But they didn't.
Right.
And I think that's going to do really, really bad disservice to him in his career playing throughout this
The one
season.
thing though
This season's going to be dark.
Texans game. One thing about this Baltimore Texans game, that the Baltimore offense still looked kind of fluky a little bit.
Well, J.K. Dobbins is once again out for the year. I feel like that's definitely a big thing to like note. I think that ultimately Odell Beckham's still making his way back from injury. I don't think he played a full snap count, did he? Because I know he wasn't a parent in my fantasy team. Maybe that's a bit of assumption on my part to make. But I don't know. I just felt like they did what they needed to do, like offensively. Like
the Texans defense played better than we thought sometimes. Just only allowing the Ravens to get 25 points.
That might be expected though, because DeMeco Ryans is heading the like. I have a lot of faith in DeMeco Ryans to be like the head coach that turns it around for Houston. I just don't expect it to be like instant.
I also don't think that Lamar didn't look sharp in my opinion. I mean, obviously it's week 1, so offenses are going to take the first couple weeks to kind of get to where they want to be.
Right.
But I mean, I just saw a lot of things I didn't like from him. I mean, he was 17 for 22, 169 yards on the day with an interception. I think it's only 8 points fantasy wise. So he's not. He didn't start the year off as that great fantasy quarterback that we usually see from Lamar every year.
Yeah.
But rushing, and he had 6 carries for 38 yards. So, we can see it. We'll definitely see an uptick in those numbers as the year goes on. But there are just some things I saw during the game I didn't like. The ball security wasn't great from Lamar. The fumble. I also didn't like that.
I thought he did get it. I thought he had a rushing touchdown. I misspoke there.
I know. Yeah, no, I don't think he did. He didn't have a rushing touchdown. I don't think he had any touchdowns yesterday. But I also didn't like when he fumbled the ball, I think, in the second quarter. And it was just right in front of him. He didn't even jump for the ball. Those are the things you kind of look for, especially after he got paid the way he did in the offseason. I don't know. I think he'll pick it back up throughout the year, but especially against the Texans, I was expecting a little bit more from him to open up the year.
No, absolutely.
I can't wait till next week when Kareem Hunt's going to be a running back for them next week. I can't wait till Kareem Hunt signs with the Ravens.
I think we're going to see Jonathan Taylor on the Ravens before the trade deadline. I think that's what's going to happen here.
That's a big prediction.
I don't think any team bites. Yeah, I don't think any team's going to bite on that trading unless they just like they're like, all right, fuck it, like we'll give them up. I don't think the Colts are going to give him up. I think that high first rounder that they asked for, a young first round player, was kind of like if you give me this, we'll take him, but we're not going to trade him. Obviously,
right. I also saw Christian Watson was reportedly like some a target of the Colts to get from the Packers when they were discussing a trade.
Well, Christian Watson is going to be one of those players that the Packers keep. And because the Packers traditionally don't draft wide receivers. So when they do, I don't see them trading him for anybody because they wasted a pick on him. When's the last time we saw that high of a pick on a wide receiver from the Packers? So them giving him up for ultimately what NFL sees as a bag of chips, We got to look at it like that. If the NFL is going to look at him like a bag of chips, we got to talk about him in trade discussions like a bag of chips. He's not going to be. Let's compare it to the Tyreek trade. Tyreek Hill was a sign and trade, one of probably the most recent sign and trades in my lifetime for NFL. I've never seen that before. A team openly sign a player and then trade him immediately, basically. So it doesn't hit their cap room and it doesn't hit anything. But that sign and trade, what was it? A package of second rounders and then one first rounder for him, and that was one of the best.
It was like a first round and a couple of thirds, I want to say.
So one of the best wide receivers in football at the time, coming off a Super Bowl, was given up for what, a first rounder, couple conditional thirds. We so now we're gonna look at his resume as a running back. That running back resume isn't the best, being top rusher. I guess that's not something big for them because Philip Lindsay's out the league right now. He was a top 5 rusher, no fumbles, still out the league, can't keep a job. So that doesn't mean anything. Josh Jacobs just got tagged last year, almost broke the record, and he got tagged. So what? The tag's $7-8 million. That's what they want to pay running backs for the next 3 years, is what they're saying. With the media money coming in, with Bosa making $30 million a year, they still see running backs with, and Pacheco's don't help it. Pacheco's coming in the 5th rounders and running like that don't help these star-studded receivers. As much as they love them, no, they don't. Him being a second rounder, him getting that second round attention is gonna demand him to run out that rest of the contract. But I don't think he's gonna go anywhere else. They're gonna figure it out. Pay him about 12 to 13 yearly. I see about 8 to 9 of that being guaranteed, and they're gonna call it that.
I think there might be one team willing to get Jonathan Taylor on their field and pay him, and that might be the Indianapolis Colts, because their rushing attack was only Anthony Richardson, and we already saw him go out of the game in the last minute with an injury. He needs to learn how to slide. That's definitely true. Just like that Josh Allen type body, definitely want to use it. It's definitely like effective on the field, but it could put you in harm's way. And what we saw out of Deion Jackson, what we saw out of, I don't even know if the rookie Null really made it on the field all too much. I felt like the rushing attack could have used a little help. And if you have a running back like Jonathan Taylor that's sitting out and needs to be paid, maybe you try to pay him like a top 5 running back. Maybe that doesn't look like as bad as it would for other teams, especially a team that's going to have a quarterback under a rookie contract for the next 3 to 4 years. Probably 3 years, especially if Richardson works out. They're going to want to pay him sooner rather than later, because then they'll run into an issue with Richardson. I ultimately think that the Colts have a lot of pieces there. I think Steichen showed a lot of promise as a head coach as well. As a play caller who's going to develop Richardson, I felt like that was one of yesterday's biggest positive storylines. I think that even though they ended up losing yesterday, and Richardson did throw like an interception in the second half, things looked good. Like, I felt like they looked competitive.
I liked a lot what I saw from the Colts too. Anthony Richardson, I think he's going to be the starting QB for the Colts. Hopefully, there won't be they won't continue that carousel of different Week 1 QBs like we've seen the past few years. And I think you're right. I think he just needs that help from a guy like Jonathan Taylor. Richardson accounted for 263 of the 280 net yards in that game, and he had 40 rushing yards, where we only saw 14 rushing yards from Deion Jackson, who's the next highest rusher that game for the Colts. I think the Colts just kind of got to figure something out with Taylor. It's kind of ridiculous. Taylor's clearly a very talented running back, one of the best in the league. And to take that away from Anthony Richardson, especially he's coming out of college, stepping into being a starting quarterback for an NFL team, they're taking that away from him, because that would take a huge load off his shoulders and allow him to focus on managing the game more and not having to make a big play every time they're on offense.
I'll be the one outlier then. I hated the Colts yesterday.
Really?
I really didn't like the fact that they relied on Anthony Richardson. This might be one of the best quarterback classes that we see, and the Texans and the Colts are going to ruin it for us because, like you said, Anthony Richardson went out with a hamstring injury. The key reason why a lot of teams were doubting on Anthony Richardson was injury. If you have an injury-prone quarterback, and yeah, your line is one of the best in the league, but if you have an injury-prone quarterback, why are you setting him out there with that type of non-trust and confidence in your running backs if he can't get quick checkdowns down, if he can't get quick audibles to, give up possibly 2 yards, like possibly give up 2-3 yards, but I'm going to protect myself and give it to my running back because we trust him as an organization. The fact that Deion Jackson had 14 yards, I thought it was a little more, but 14 yards actually just is baffling. The fact that the rest of that running back crew wasn't ready, even with the contract negotiations, we all knew that he wasn't going to be playing week 1. I don't know what the organization was having, being hopeful. Maybe he just shows up. No, I don't think anyone in that locker room knew he was going to play week 1. So the fact that they didn't even sign a BS replacement, a Kareem Hunt, or even
a Leonard Fournette,
or even just Leonard Fournette, a BS 1-year replacement that you wouldn't mind cutting in a few weeks when he does come back, just to add some pressure on Jonathan Taylor's side and to help you have trust in a young quarterback. I completely forgot that they had a young quarterback with all that talk going on.
I think we might disagree about how the Colts executed yesterday and the concerns about Richardson, but I honestly agree with the heart of it in terms of we want to get Richardson out of the way. Like I said, you want to take him out of harm's way. You don't want him to be taking those Josh Allen hits, because I feel like Josh Allen's been relatively lucky that he's gotten not so banged up as he might. I know he had the elbow thing last year. But ultimately, the failure to equip him with at least a running back. There are so many running backs, so affordable, so cheap, and you're telling me that you can't even get a replacement for Jonathan Taylor if you're not trying to make a running back a top 10, top 5 paid running back? That's possible. He's at Kareem Hunt. I feel like he might not be the freshest legs anymore, but at the same time, what's stopping him from getting